So I learned this week that the Opera House we don't usually have shows during the day, but this week they're doing Schoolhouse Rock for students. So we might get a
Have a
little
little,
Schoolhouse Rock in the background this morning.
I was just coming into the parking lot when two buses pulled in from Farmington. So I actually came in with the kids and they're all looking at me like, who are you? I'm like, who are you? That's actually cool. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been fun because I can hear it in my office. So you're hearing, I'm just a bill on my.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you get, I'm just a
Yeah.
villain. That's
Yeah,
really
kind of
cool.
fun.
I'm gonna wait just a minute or two longer for Melissa to join us, just because I think pretty much that's the bulk of this agenda.
Gretchen, can you hear me?
I can. Where's that sound coming from though? Who's talking?
Color.
Kala. Hi, Kala.
Hi, Gretchen. I don't know if you have time on the agenda, but I'm trying to schedule the PRMC meeting, the Piscataqua Region Monitoring Collaborative meeting.
Yeah.
Perhaps for late June, early July.
Yeah.
And if you have the time to just get a sense from people what general weeks, days in that period work and don't work, that will help me not waste people's time when I send out a doodle.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that before we get started if you,
Whichever, whatever works for you,
Yeah,
that would be great.
I think everyone's busy is
Oh,
the answer. I'm just
oh,
kidding.
okay.
I'm just kidding.
I'm one of those people that's not busy, so I guess I
I
lucked
know.
out.
It's crazy right now for I think everyone, but so you were thinking end of June?
End of June or early July.
Okay.
But if we have to push it, we have to push it.
No, I think that's good. Do folks have preferences? Any vacations coming up?
The only thing is, at the end of June, that's when all our SRF and ARPA grant
It's true.
applications are due. That's gonna be a crunch week.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
I would say July would be better for me.
After the 4th, but in that maybe second week of July.
Yeah, second week of July. Paula, does that, do you
Yep.
have a date that is good for you?
I haven't picked one. Do you want me to throw one out or do that by doodle?
Well,
we-
we've been doing a lot of stuff on Thursdays. Do Thursdays tend to work for people?
Could do
Thursday
the-
works for me.
I could do the 14th if that works for people.
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, and should we just keep it at 10 o'clock? It's a nice time for people.
Works again, yep, that works for me.
All right, we'll try to keep it to 2 hours. We will keep it to 2 hours.
Perfect.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
An email from Melissa. She's not seeing a
Oh, no.
passcode on the agenda.
All right,
I just replied to it with it.
thank you.
Yep.
You know what, Kelly, if we're really throwing things out here, 10 is not, 10:30 is, I actually have a meeting from 9:30 to 10:30 on the 14th, which I think I'm supposed to be hosting.
Okay, how about 1 o'clock?
Is that okay? Since you asked. Thank you.
Will this
It
be remote or in person? We
Um,
have a class from 12:30 to 1:30 that day.
I'm thinking remote. I usually get more participation when I do it remote. So
That would be helpful in terms of for the class.
Yeah, I mean, I can even do 10:30 and, I can be half an hour late too. It's not,
No, let's do 10:30 to 12:30.
There you
That seems like the simplest solution.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we got Melissa.
No, not yet.
Not yet. As soon as she gets on, I'll get started, but. Katie, did
If you don't mind, I had it pulled up in Word, but
You know,
it-
we'll,
it would
we'll
be
figure it out
helpful.
between the two of us. I'll take some notes too. and we'll,
sounds good.
Apologies again. We're just gonna wait one more minute while we've got one more person coming.
All right, I just admitted Melissa.
Thank you.
Sorry about the confusion, Melissa. All right, great. I think we've got everyone here, so we will get going. Thanks everyone for coming. Busy schedules. Got a really good turnout today, so I appreciate it. Call to order at 10:07. Because this is the executive committee, we're looking to approve minutes, but it would just be from the November 4th executive committee. That was quite some time ago.
I'd make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 4th, 2021.
A second.
Great. And I believe we're all here in person, so we can just do all those in favor.
I,
Aye.
Excellent.
I'll have to abstain. I wasn't. in there.
And actually, Chris, I think the executive committee, I'm really glad that Milton is represented, but I think it is Exeter, Exeter, Newington, Dover, Portsmouth, and Rochester are the 5 executive.
Yep,
Yeah,
understood.
But please. All right, now we're going to open up discussion and approval of the stakeholder committee pilot project. And I am going to turn it over to Melissa in a second, but just to remind everyone, kind of a little background on the pilot project. As part of the settlement agreement, which is a little bit separate from the municipal alliance, the 3 communities that entered into the agreement with CLF had offered to help support a pilot project. It hadn't been completely thought through at the time, so there was an understanding that it would just be some sort of initiative or some sort of innovative approach to the nitrogen management. And each of those communities pledged $15,000, totaling $45,000, with the understanding that CLF would work with the stakeholder committee. So this is what ties Municipal Alliance back in to do that. pilot project. And Melissa has been working and has come up with a project that she thinks will be a good fit for this group. And she's been working with her stakeholder committee. And we discussed it a little bit at our last members meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to her for any updates. And then I think she's looking for the support and an endorsement from the executive board for her to move ahead with that. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good morning, guys. So I don't want to repeat things that that folks are already familiar with as to kind of why we've circled around this idea of exploring cost-effective ways to reduce nitrogen loads from septic systems as another tool in the toolkit for working on the adaptive management plans. If anyone has questions about the outline of the pilot, I'm happy to share that. I think you have all seen the project description, though that might not be fresh in folks' minds, so I can send that around again. Thank you, Gretchen. So yeah, as Gretchen noted, what I think we have things fairly well shaped up, but for a few things. One is obviously final approval for MAM for the project, but equally important is that I don't want to advance this work until I really know what questions you all want answered. Because the specific survey questions and the ways in which we solicit participation from homeowners will be very much guided by what information is going to be helpful for municipal officials in thinking about this as something that could be scaled up from this pilot project to something more widespread. So that's really another discussion that I love, and I'm posting here in the chat right now some of the questions that would be really helpful to have your thoughts on. Other updates from this current draft is that we've identified 2 neighborhoods that I think would be really suitable. One comes from Terry and Suzanne in Portsmouth. It's actually, the neighborhood is in Rye, but it's on Sagamore Creek. It's a neighborhood that is shorefront homes on the Rye side of Sagamore Creek. So it's within, within the estuary. And then the other neighborhood is one that Gretchen has suggested in Dover, that is off of Route 108, heading west from Dover toward Durham, and is an area where a neighborhood on septic that would be very expensive to connect to sewer. So again, seems like a very suitable neighborhood to use as the second neighborhood in this pilot. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. And then, I know this meeting should be very short, so perhaps people don't want to have a big discussion about these questions now. Folks could send some responses to me in writing. That would be very helpful. But I'm happy to go however you guys want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Suzanne Woodland, representing the city of Portsmouth. Couple of questions, Melissa. First off, I see that there's a delta between the amount that as the 45,000 as part of the CLF settlement. You actually have a project cost of 55. I'm just curious if you want to explain how you hope to meet that delta.
Yeah, and this is an estimated, it may actually be a little bit higher than this, even because if we want to get someone, say from UNH Carsey Center to help us in the survey design, that could be maybe a little bit higher than 2,500. I think we will be able to find funding, as you may all be aware. Where the great New Hampshire Charitable Foundation has just announced a substantial amount of funding from a donor to support Great Bay 2030 activities. And so I think I would solicit some support from that grant that to support this pilot project and not come back to MAM and request additional funding.
I might offer then in follow up to that, if you need letters of support, we could probably help make that happen
Absolutely. Yep.
for those requests for grant funds.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
If I might have
Yeah, please.
second question for you. I know when we met the last time, you were hoping to get some economic diversity in your two pilots, and I'm wondering, do you feel that you've achieved that or not?
Well, I do in a seacoast sort of way, right? So the neighborhood that you and Terry have suggested along Sagamore Creek, I think would be the higher end kind of waterfront homes, Rye, very pricey properties. The neighborhood that that Gretchen has suggested in Dover, I mean, I think as she noted, the average selling price for those homes is like $400,000. So that's not necessarily modest by anyone's definition, but in the seacoast scheme of things these days, I guess that certainly is a somewhat less affluent neighborhood than the one along Sagamore Creek. So I think there would be some some diversity, socioeconomic diversity, but perhaps not as much as we might want. If anyone has another neighborhood that they want to suggest, which really, which would diversify the two sites even more, I'd be delighted to hear.
Thank you.
I would follow up. Yeah, the prices of homes are just crazy, but the neighborhood that we identified is kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, smaller homes, smaller lots, not waterfront, and in an area where extending sewer, is very prohibitive.
Thank you very much.
I'd ask this, Gretchen, I'd ask that we can't actually see those questions that you put in the chat. So I'm hoping maybe Jamie could get those up, because I thought I was really impressed with the questions that you had. I thought it really, I honed in on some of the things that we had been talking about. So I just wanted to make sure those get up there so that folks can see what the pilot project is looking to answer.
Oh,
I just
wonder
can't see
why
that. I think if
you can't see the
Jamie,
chat. Maybe I can send them around by just a reply
well,
all
if
from
not,
the
I
email.
I can just read them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just read them. Here we go. Okay.
I've got them right here, Gretchen. If you want, how willing are property owners to install
Yeah.
this technology in their septic tanks?
It's-
How complicated is the installation at a typical property? Are property owners willing to pay for an annual inspection? How reliable and available is the service provider if issues arise for homeowners? If a property changes hands, are new owners made aware of the retrofit system and willing to continue maintaining it? If the cost of the system were not covered by this grant, how much would property owners be willing to pay to substantially reduce nutrient discharges from their septic systems? Do the systems perform as advertised? Is there any need to have municipal staff involved in the installation or inspection? So those are some of the questions that that you might want answered, but I'm sure you have many others that I haven't thought of.
I'll throw out, we've got someone from the city staff who just rode over with me today, and he brought up the idea of, I was saying, well, you plug it in, it's added electric cost, and he was curious if there was a way to look at doing a solar that would just be for these systems. I thought that was a neat idea. That's something we're doing with our pedestrian light crossings and stuff. So just, interesting.
Well, again, I don't want to take up too much time on your agenda, so.
Okay, yep, I just want to make sure everyone had a chance, Melissa, I, again, just want to say, I appreciate. I feel like this subcommittee really heard some of the concerns that the municipalities. Or, I think there's a lot of support for this project and I think it has a great chance to make a good. Dent into the nitrogen reduction, and I think the questions that you're asking are all the ones that we need some answers to. So if we're gonna roll it out at a larger scale, sorry.
So I'd make a motion to approve the stakeholder committee pilot project as presented by the stakeholder committee and Ms. Paling.
Perfect.
I second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Discussion.
All we're approving is this proposal. We're not endorsing people actively purchasing sledgehammer to just fulfilling a contract for the 45 grand.
Correct. This would authorize the stakeholder committee, well,
Yeah.
for the communities to release the money of 45,000 that was put in by Dover, Rochester and Portsmouth as part of its agreement with the Conservation Law Foundation to conduct this, but it wouldn't force any individual homeowner to
We're just
participate.
enforcing the study.
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a question from Sally Sewell. What happens if the power goes out? Does it need to be connected to a generator? Will you track actual as-built costs?
Great question.
Yeah, Melissa, just to add to your excellent list, just things
Yeah.
I'd be curious about, what are the actual costs? Curious.
Yep, thank you. That's great. And then I just want to clarify that the grant will go from MAM to Stratford Regional Planning Commission, which will administer this project.
That Monday.
Thank you, Melissa, for that.
Yep, thank you. All right, so we've got a motion and a second to approve the septic system draft, the septic system proposal from the stakeholder committee. And it would be funding the $45,000 to the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. All right, next topic is review of recent invoices. I don't believe there needs to be any votes on these, but Katie can give us some updates on the invoices. I did pass around one of the UNH invoices.
Yes, so the invoice that Gretchen distributed was the first invoice received from PrEP, which has been approved and processed. And as you'll see that the description of the invoice is all in support of the field season 2022 activities as was approved by MAM. So we did review and release the funds because they did coincide with the vote with the monitoring activities that were already approved. And we are all set up for the 2022 Brown and Caldwell support. So we'll be processing those as we receive those towards the 50,000 that was approved.
Great, thank you, Katie. All right, as always on our agenda, we keep item number 5, the stakeholder comment. Melissa, did you have anything else you'd want to add?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, then item number 6, we'll open it up to public comment. Seeing no one, anyone online? All right, seeing no one, then we'll move it to other business.
One thing I guess it brings to mind after seeing that size of that bill, and I know, and Milton does appreciate because we were late to the game, the 3 communities that put up a lion's share of the money, but I don't always expect that that's going to be the case. 2 months from now starts, sadly, the budget process for a lot of communities that are not council form of government. And if there's going to be some thought about a different cost sharing or fiscal activities in 23, then I need to literally be aware of that in the next 2 to 3 months. Because as it gets into fall, the more solidified that gets, it's harder to do something. The budget discussion on our end has already started, and that I'm sure with everyone else, our voters voted in a 2% tax cap. And we're wondering what the fuel prices are going to do to being able to stay within that 2% and that tax cap. Because there's just a host of factors, and we're all seeing it in our own budgets and in our town budgets, city budgets, that some of our costs are in certain areas are going right up through the roof. So the more notice I can get to bring that back to the board, the better off we'll be. That's all.
Katie, may I jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in terms of the estuarine monitoring stuff, it's Chris, right?
Correct.
That's going to be the main subject of that PRMC meeting that we scheduled for July 14. And we had heard from folks that this meeting used to happen more in the fall, and a lot of people were saying, well, it's a little too late. We need to start this budgeting process more like June. So that's why we've moved these meetings up. So some of those things I think will maybe be solidified in that meeting, Chris, not
Okay.
everything,
Yep.
because prep isn't involved in everything, but certainly all the estuarine monitoring stuff will be reviewed in terms of next year's budget. And if you have anything, and I would extend this to anybody who is hearing this, if you have anything in particular you would like me to put on the agenda, let me know, and maybe CC Jennifer Perry, who's the co-chair of the PRMC. Ted Deers was the other co-chair, but with his promotion, he is, we're going to have to fill the other co-chair spot. Hopefully that helps, Chris.
Yep. Does.
Yeah, understood. Yep. Yeah. Hey, Jamie, there are 2 chat comments. And could you just confirm that whether those are intended as part of public comment or?
I've got the one initially from Melissa with her questions, and then Sally's additional question to be added. But other than that, I don't see any other chat questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I did have the old agenda up
That's- yeah,
for a
that's
minute,
all right.
but I can throw up the current one if you want.
Well, I think unless there's any other comments, anyone else? All right, then we're going to move to item number 8, which is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dennis,
Second.
second by Suzanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Carla.
What?
Bye, Melissa. I want to say bye, Brian, but it's
It's
It's Jamie.
it's funny, his photo shows up at every meeting and it's not Brian.
Brian's got the fancy account. All right, I'm gonna log off. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
I have to ask